I know J.S. Bibbins was the photographic artist of this picture. It's about an 1860s style, which matches greatly this 1860s style Carta Vista that was found in Julius Smith's photo album. It says Mrs. Joseph Smith and son Dave. This is a baby. He was born in 1844, but it's a picture of him and his mother reprinted probably around 1860, because that's the style, according to one expert I talked to. The Julius Smith's photo album, on the back of this picture, it says it was printed around Missouri. Julius Smith lived in Missouri. If you look at the Joseph Smith Papers website, what they say, these scholars, this is an 1845 picture of Emma Smith, which, yeah, an 1845 picture of Emma Smith, done, they think, by Lucian Foster. I'm not sure about all their evidences there. So my theory, I think hairline-wise, I think my picture was always a paper photograph. I don't think it's a daguerreotype or ever was, because if it was a daguerreotype, it wouldn't match the death mask so well without being flipped around. And I think these backgrounds are extremely, extremely similar. So if I make her head about the same size as his, okay, this is a background that's on some sort of stand that is not level. Because whatever this paper that's a little bit shiny and textured, it's a textured background. You know, and they had wallpaper back then. I don't know what his background actually was, but I was really impressed by looking at these two. I'm like, this is a speckled background. So if I make her head as big as his, those speckles almost look like the same size. And it's not a background that goes very high, and it's slanted. Except he has more dramatic side lighting. Her picture is a little more clear than his. So I started to wonder, maybe, I mean, it's definitely possible. It's, you know, a daguerreotype rephotographed, possibly. I don't know how blurry that was, but her picture is more clear than what I have, but of course her picture is bigger too. So if you're looking at the Carta Vista, it's a bigger print. So anyway, I think the backgrounds match. I could theorize and think it possibly could be Lucian Foster. I see a lot of his pictures that I think really just look like saltwater prints. So I talked to a woman in Salt Lake City when I went to the Pioneer Memorial Museum to take photographs of the vest, which I can't go over here in this video. I'm just dying and wish I could. I've also have other things some other people have given me that I've started to analyze, and I'm like, I want to analyze this and make a video, but I can't because I'm letting people that are smarter than me do it. So, oh, it's too exciting. But when someone really wants things to be official and you sign paperwork, you can't just make a ton of fun videos that you want to do. But I think the backgrounds match really well. I think, and it's just not a very smooth, it's kind of haphazardly thrown up there. It's very artistic, but you can see how dark that is. That means that background's thrown over something. Is it a tree branch? Are they outside? Maybe it's over the same tree branch. It even kind of goes like that. It's a little bit wavy. So Emma Smith was like 5'9", Joseph Smith was around 6'2". So if they're sitting in the same chair, I mean, this all makes sense that his head would be up to there. And you'd see more of this darker there. So I'm just going to go more into why I really think my picture was done later, and I'm going to talk a lot about Joseph Smith III's letter to Salt Lake Tribune in 1910. He states that he has a daguerreotype of his father, which was used as a basis for a painting of his father that he thinks was done in 1843. He thinks the daguerreotype was done in 1843. He was 11 when his father died in 1844. So he's not sure of the year that this painting was done, that is in Missouri. But in the letter, he takes a photograph of the painting and sends it to Salt Lake. And so that's where you get the belief that this picture that Joseph Smith III sent to the Library of Congress is really just a photograph of a painting. But I think with this hard edge, I'll analyze this and tell you my rough opinion real quick here, because I've never cared that much about it. People think it's a real photograph because you see photographic qualities on the jacket here. Frankly, I mean, this woman, and again, go back to the Pioneer Memorial Museum, the woman told me the picture of Emma Smith, how clear it is. She doesn't think that it was ever a daguerreotype because it would have been really blurry. She showed me how small those daguerreotypes are in those cameras. Again, she's like, well, most of these photographers did both daguerreotypes and paper photography. And she showed me early versions of Photoshop. They would cut heads and put them in. Someone missed a funeral. They actually cut people out with some photos, pasted them, and did another print of some pictures. And so frankly, the quality of this is so speckled and pixelated compared to this. I think it's possible that he cut this all out and put it on top of maybe a posed picture of someone wearing his dad's jacket. That's what I think. But, you know, that picture is very similar but distorted to this. And then you've got other versions, kind of like Kim Marshall's, that looks really different. But if you read the letter from Joseph Smith III, about the first paragraph, he states that he is a duplicate painting. So this is the one in Missouri, quite possibly, most likely, that was, he thinks, done in 1843, based on a daguerreotype. Okay, but he also has a duplicate painting, duplicate oil painting in Iowa. So there are two paintings. They probably weren't exact. And Joseph Smith Jr., his father, stated that this picture, there definitely was some artistic liberties because they made him look like a pretty boy. And so that's, I think, that way you have two different pictures there. But I think looking at Sutcliffe Maudslay's drawing, so this was done in 1842 when Joseph Smith became mayor and the leader of the Nauvoo Legion. Sutcliffe Maudsley, he actually did two versions of this. He looks really different. So Maudsley wasn't always that perfect. Made him look really short there, and then there he looks tall. He looks really young here, and then he looks a little bit older. But let's look at the hairline there. This is 1842, so assuming that that painting and these photographs of the painting are accurate, the painting, the daguerreotype, would have to be before 1842. Because you've just really got this bouffant hairstyle. Clearly, he can brush. He has a lot of hair and it's brushed back. This hair is brushed forward and it's flipped up, but it's not. This isn't happening. This is 1842. Sutcliffe Maudsley had him, He did the technique where they do a shadow and they trace the side of their face and get the outline of their face. And people have said this was very, very accurate to the death mask, so he probably just used that for his drawings. Because it's very clear that Joseph Smith wasn't willing to sit down for hours and have someone do a painting of him. That's probably why he ended up with a daguerreotype. So I think it was 1842 when I first found my picture. I'd initially found that daguerreotype I showed you a minute ago. This spiritist picture. So I was really initially thought this was really great. It does look a lot like the painting. He does have the bouffant hairstyle, but he has, well, almost a receding hairline, but he has a pretty full head of hair. I drew that, analyzed that face, got to know it really well. I just didn't want to research things too much, and I found this picture, found the juvenile instructor website. I didn't really read that in the beginning. I just knew these faces looked very similar. I wouldn't have been drawn to mine if I had not found the spiritist picture. Spiritist because that's the name of the handle on YouTube. And I just thought maybe they were related, but it was within 5 minutes I found both of these, and then I found mine. And I could just compare it to the death mask, just visually, just looking at the death mask and the skull. I was impressed by the skull. The skull fascinated me about 3 years ago, well, 2.5 years ago anyway. But I was still sold on this one, and then it wasn't until I drew this and really realized their faces were very similar. I talked about other videos, but more on the opposite side. And then I flipped him around. So when he flipped his orientation around, and I didn't know daguerreotypes were flipped around, I just went ahead and just did it. And then I found out daguerreotypes are in an opposite position. But if mine was ever a daguerreotype, I would have need to flip it around in order for it to match the death mask, but it matches it straight on. And so mine matches the death mask very well with a very receded hairline that goes to the top of his. I just watched my look at to my website and look at the hair. I study his hair in one webpage. But again, this woman at the Pioneer Memorial Museum said that someone like Lucian Foster, if he was like most other artists, he would have known how to do. He would have done both mediums to make money. He would have made more money doing daguerreotypes than he would have done as paper photography. Lucian Foster was on, I think around May, I'm going to put all the links to this on here, May 1844, he was called to be a part of Joseph Smith's presidential campaign. So he knew how to do the art. He didn't go west with the Saints. He stayed back and did become a part of different groups. I don't think he became part of the RLDS church, but kind of hung around there in Illinois for a while, I think. A lot of people don't know that much about him. But so I think there were 2 pictures done. I don't think mine was ever really a daguerreotype. Even though I've played around with the idea, I'm like, maybe they could have just flipped it around again and made the orientation right. I just don't know. But I do know J.S. Bibbins lived 10 miles away from Joseph Smith III. I know J.S. Bibbins didn't do this, but yet the backgrounds look very, very similar. And the style is quite similar, just plain sitting in a chair. So yeah, I think hairline-wise, mine, he has less hair than in Sutcliffe Maudslay's drawings. I think the RLDS painting and these other copies of the paintings just show this bouffant hairstyle of this person that can brush their hair back, and it's bouffant. I think he was not able to do that in 1842, although he does have a lot more fat in his face in the spiritist picture. But granted, Joseph Smith in 1839, which is what a lot of people theorize, he went to Washington, D.C., and then he also went to Pennsylvania for a while in 1839. So he's lost 80 pounds by April 1839. October, November, he's in Washington, D.C. in that 6-month period, he wouldn't have gained his muscle mass back. He would have lost a ton of muscle, losing 80 pounds. His metabolism would have been low. He would have gotten fat for a little while, and according to some witnesses, he did get a little fat for a while there. If you lose muscle, that's what happens. But by 1844, he's carrying granite to the Nauvoo temple, and he's working on a farm. He's just wrestling with people every 5 seconds. He would have lost weight pretty quick. So those are my theories. I'm not worried about the Spiritus picture anymore. I'm more focused on because mine matches the death mask really well. And, you know, there's more to find out, more to come. But the information I found has been really supportive, and it's fun. And